So you want to learn how to play guitar? That is super awesome. I'm going to be uploading videos intermittently, not every week, but on a regular basis to help you to learn guitar. Um, this is all for free. I love music, and I love that you want to learn an instrument. That's super cool. One thing that's important is before you pick up an instrument is you will probably only be a really good musician on one instrument. There's some people who can just play a bunch of instruments, but the amount of those people who play any of those instruments really well is pretty small. You will probably be, if you master an instrument, you will probably be, that will be your instrument. So you really have to stop and think, what instrument do I really want? Guitar is very popular because you can sing and play it, and you can just kind of take it everywhere. But there are a lot of really great instruments out there. I love guitar. I learned how to play piano when I was a kid, but I didn't like it at all. Guitar is a great instrument. I just instantly fell in love with it. Just everything about it. I just love it so much. So anyways, this lesson is going to be just the real basics. We'll look about skill, guitars and strings, and guitar brands, the parts of the guitar, picks, and posture, how you should sit. Next lesson we'll look more specifically about the posture of the left arm, how to read tabs, that kind of stuff. So let's go ahead and get started. First off, skill. You can be the best guitarist in the world, and it's very, very simple, by being expressive. See, being the best guitarist in the world isn't about playing notes faster than anyone else can play a note. That's not what it's about. It's not about playing as many notes in one beat as possible. It's not about playing loud. None of those things is about being a great guitar player. What really makes a good guitar player is someone who doesn't play a bunch of notes but means the notes that they play. And what I mean by that, when you're actually expressing yourself, you're not just playing notes, you're playing music. And it's something where you are being real with the instrument, and you're being intimate with the instrument, and the things that you're saying from your heart are coming out from your instrument. That's what makes a good guitar player. There's a lot of people who really play guitar for show. I mean, it's whatever, but the greatest musicians are people who just are real, and when they play the music, you can just see that they're playing something and they're singing something that's real. It's not they're not just doing something to get people to like them or to get popular. They're doing something that's real. Anybody can become a guitar master. Really, what it requires are two very simple things: push yourself and practice every day. What I mean by that, push yourself. Don't allow yourself to say, okay, this is where I'm at, this is where I'm staying. This is where you're at, great. Push yourself to do better. If let's say you're the best classical guitar player in the whole world, there will always be something else that you can push yourself to do better on. So don't get your eyes off the future with being a musician. You always want to see that one song that's harder, that one thing that's harder, that one bit that is something that you haven't tried yet. So always push yourself. And then second, practice every day. Now, not 5 minutes a day. I'm talking about you have to be a good musician, you have to practice at least an hour a day. When I was in high school, I practiced anywhere between 6 and 8 hours every single day. And I was able to pick it up really fast because of that. And that's really the key, is practice, practice, practice. People think that, oh, I'm just not talented with this instrument. No. A very small part of being a good guitar player is actual natural talent. The majority of it is pushing yourself to keep practicing. And I mean, you just got to keep pushing yourself. Here's a great example. Okay, when I picked up the guitar, I picked it up great, perfectly fine. It just came naturally. Everything I did was just really easy for me to pick up. When I started singing, it was very difficult for me, and I was a terrible singer. I'm still not great, but I'm better than I was. And I remember my old a guy that I used to play music with. He used to say, it's a shame that you're not as talented with your voice as you are with your guitar. And I'll never forget that, because it was very true. I had to practice and practice and practice with my voice, and then finally I got where I could hold a tune. See what I mean? And that's kind of two extremes in one person. Usually one person will really pick it up and one person will just not. So I hope that kind of encourages you. Just practice every day and you will get past the hump if you just keep practicing. Music is art. It's about sharing your soul. It's not about impressing people. It's a part of you. And every time that you pick up the instrument and you play a note, you are revealing part of your soul, and never forget that. Okay, art is a part of you, and if you do something like you write a song, you've taken a piece of you and you've put it in that song. And it's a little bit scary, a little bit difficult, because if people reject your song, they're kind of in a way rejecting you, and that's hard to deal with. But rejection is a part of being a musician, and the important point is that you grow from that rejection and that you learn to do better, but ultimately that what you play is what's real and you're proud of it. That's ultimately the big test. So real quick about guitars and strings, we're going to look at 3 different types of guitars. The first is the classical guitar. It's also called the nylon string guitar. This is an example of one right here. I just got this off the internet. If you'll notice, this is really wide and the strings are kind of far apart. The reason why that's like that is because it's meant for finger picking, like playing classical music. It is a very low tension guitar. Now what that means is all strings cause tension between here and here. And classical guitars can't take a whole lot of tension. If you put too big of strings on there, it'll pop the sucker in half. Which is why they have strings like this. They're called nylon strings. You see here clear nylon for classical guitar. Okay, normal tension. You don't want anything too tight or else it'll just destroy your guitar. These guitars really can't have too much pressure on them. A good example of a classical guitar brand is called a Cordoba. There's a lot of handmade guitars that are really good. I personally use a Pimentel. They're a manufacturer that is based out of Albuquerque, New Mexico. Really impressed with them. But ultimately, it really just depends on what you're looking for. You can find just a cheap one, and every major guitar brand is going to have a version of a classical guitar like Ibanez or Gibson or whatever. And then there's Yamahas, stuff like that. So just look, when you first start on guitar, you probably want to get something kind of cheaper. And the reason why is because it's just a beater guitar. You take it with you everywhere you go, you practice on it. If it gets broken, who cares? And it's kind of like a trial guitar. You want to see if you actually want to commit to this instrument before you really go all out. I had a lot of crapper guitars, and then I finally got a custom-built classical guitar that I didn't get until I'd been playing the guitar for many years, at least like 3 years before I did that, and well, probably 4. And now I've been playing the guitar for like 14 or 15 years, somewhere along there, and I really only have the one custom-made guitar. And then I have some general guitars that are just like, they're not crappy, but they're not like the best guitar in the world. They're just good guitars. So you really have to kind of weigh the pros and cons of what you're wanting, what kind of music you're wanting to play, that kind of stuff. Typically, within the instrument, you're really only going to have time to master one style of playing. For instance, you're either going to be great at playing guitar solos and that kind of stuff with electric guitars, or you're going to be really great at playing classical music, but chances that you're really good at every single type of guitar is pretty small. And you really want to go for quality with music. You really want to be the best that you can be. Not the best in the world, but the best that you can be. The second kind of guitar that I want to mention is called a still string guitar. This is also called an acoustic guitar. This is another example right here. This is a Martin right here. I found it online, just randomly. These types of guitars are normally more for strumming. If you notice, the strings are closer together, and then this piece of wood here isn't so wide. And more for heavier, for more strumming, and you've heard acoustic music before. Now with the strings, this is a higher tension guitar. What that means is that you can put a higher a string that's pulls tighter and causes more tension on the guitar. Acoustic guitars typically have a steel rod that goes through this piece right here that keeps it kind of in check, and then they have just a stronger area over here. I won't bore you with the details, but the way that they're made is meant to take more weight. It's called a high tension guitar. So these can take heavier strings. Now this is an example of some of the strings that I use. They're called Martin Marquis. It's a phosphor bronze blend. Don't worry too much about what the string is made of quite off. Just get phosphor bronze. I mean, you could really go into specifics, but for starts, that's fine. It is fine. And then as you get more into your set style, you'll learn more about strings, and don't worry about that. But this is a good example of steel strings that go on this type of guitar. If you'll notice, there's no nylon on these ones. They are usually like copper wound or something like that, and then the skinnier strings are steel. Anyways, obviously this is phosphor and bronze, but anyways, and you can get a lot of different types of strings. These ones here are called extra light if you look up here, but then you can also get light or medium or heavy. It really depends. Now heavy means that the strings are going to be thicker, and light means that they're going to be skinnier. If you look on the package here, it says 0.01 and 0.04. That is the skinniest string and the typically the fattest string. So that kind of gives you a gauge of what kind of pressure is going to be held on that. Don't worry about the numbers. I never really learned the numbers, so don't worry about that. Just pay attention to this. The extra lighters are going to be skinnier. The heavy strings are going to be thicker. So thicker strings are harder for your fingers to push down when you're playing. But also, if you're a heavy strummer, sometimes heavier strummers like thicker strings. Some good examples of acoustic guitars would be the Taylor. That's a pretty common acoustic guitar. Martin's, obviously, this one in the picture is a Martin, or Takamine. Good examples there. But there are lots of different brands, so don't let my limited mentions make you think that that's the only thing you can get. The third type of basic guitar that you're probably gonna play is the electric guitar. I mean, everybody knows what this one looks like. Typically, they're more used for rock or for soloing, more heavy stuff that requires you to synthesize the sound with a foot pedal or something like that. Some good examples of these would be an Ibanez, a Gibson Les Paul, Fender Stratocaster, that kind of stuff. Whoops. Okay, so, whoops. And here's just a real simple example of what those would look like. If you look, the skinny string's 0.009 and the heaviest string is 0.042. That's the gauge of them. Now on electric guitar, if you do a lot of soloing, you're going to want thinner strings like lights or extra lights. And the reason why is because you won't be able to bend the strings and move your fingers quickly if the strings are too fat. They just kind of slow you down. But once again, you're kind of just gonna have to find your own voice, your own style. A lot of music is just trial and error. So don't be afraid to just try some stuff out. Maybe just get a crappy guitar and see what the guy at the music store says and just try it out. I mean, worst comes to worst, you don't like it and you try something else. So that takes us to the strings of the instrument. Now, if you look right here, you can see that there are 6 strings in a guitar. And, well, I'll get to that in a second. But this low string here is called the fat string. I know if you're holding the guitar, it's going to be the one closest to you, and you think, oh, that would mean it's the highest string, but no, it's the low string. Excuse me. And the high string, excuse me, is actually the 6th one way over here. Okay? And it's the skinniest string. So the strings are tuned to E, A, D, G, B, E. There's different things, that people try and memorize to get to memorize the strings. I can't really remember any of them because I never really had a problem memorizing the strings. Eat all day, get big, easy. whatever helps you to get it, just remember that EADGBE. That's from the fat string to the skinny string. That's what you're going to tune them to. Now, let me get to a tuner. Basically, nowadays you have a lot of options with tuners. You have some that snap onto the guitar itself, and they do their own thing. This kind that I'm showing you right here in this picture is you can plug your electric guitar into it, which is pretty nice, or you can just play in front of it, and either way it'll pick it up. You can get apps that you download onto your phone to tune your guitar, and a lot of them are free. You can tune it by ear by playing a piano and then tune it up to that. Not as precise, but if you're just practicing, it's fine. Typically, you want to practice with your guitar in tune so that your ears don't get used to playing an out-of-tune instrument, just typically. And this right here is called an electric tuner. If you look, it's a tuner and metronome. Now a metronome is something that keeps time. It basically, they used to be these little things that you would sit on your piano and you go. Well, now, a lot of people don't have those anymore, so now they have electric metronomes. And so on the little screen, it'll show a little thing that goes back, and it basically shows you the beat, like 40 BPM, 40 beats per minute, and so on and so forth. And then it'll just kind of help you to play in time, because you don't want to be one of those players who can't keep a beat. Metronomes are great to practice with. If you're learning a new song, play with the metronome. Do 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 do. You know what I mean? Where you can hit in even. And anyways, but then this itself is an electric tuner. You can see here where you play in front of it and it'll pick it up. This kind of tuner has a sound setting right here, and a lot of the app downloads do too, where you can actually play the sound of where it's supposed to be at, so you know if you're too high or too low. And this is where you switch it between tuner and metronome. This is the power button. This is really used a lot in the metronome, but on the tuner you can change the hertz. Don't worry about that. Yeah. So you want to tune this string to E, this one to A, this one to D, this one to G, this one to B, and this one to E. Now, don't worry too much about notes and keys and all that stuff. We'll worry about that later. I'll introduce the idea in next lesson, and then we'll have more talking about the circle of fifths and that kind of stuff. Now that takes us to the parts of a guitar. Just really quickly, let me move this out of the way. So on an acoustic guitar, you have this hole here, and that's what makes sound. You strum on it, and it just boom, it reverberates the sound out. Well, on electric guitars, they don't have that sound hole. So they have these two metal pieces here. Those are called the pickups. And you can switch between them with little toggle switches between either this one or both of them. It just gives you different sound. This right here is the pick guard. That's meant for when you're playing, you don't scratch up your guitar. This is the main body, this is the neck, and this is the head. And you can see it here, head, neck, body. Once again, these are all images that I just pulled off online. All that you really need to know is that this is the head, neck, and body. These are the tuning pegs. Right here is the nut. Okay, and right here is the bridge. So if you look, there's a little white thing that looks a lot like the nut. That's called the saddle. Okay. Now these little round things, they are called I forgot what they're called. That is a trip. I'll come back to that. Can't believe I don't remember. Some guitars have a little what's called a cutaway. This electric guitar has it. It's a section where it's obviously cut away so that you can reach up higher. These little metal pieces that go across are called the frets. And when you're playing, you would say, like, let's say for instance, the F is on the first fret of the E string. Well, here's the E string here, so that would mean this right here. Now, this would technically be the first fret, but when you say the first fret, you mean the space before the fret. So the 5th fret is here. even though if you count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The second fret would be right here, even though this is the second fret. You play right here. And when you put your fingers down, you want to get them as close to the fret as possible. We'll talk about that later. Don't worry about it. Now, when you're stringing a guitar, or stringing a guitar, I'll do an instructional video later about how to string a guitar. But you take these little pegs out, okay? And you put the bass in there. They've got this little, it's like a little circle thing you push on in there, and then you push that peg on down into it, and it holds it in there, okay? And then you wrap it around the tuning machines here. But on guitars like this, some of them will have it where you take it through the back of the guitar, and it comes up through the bridge here. They'll come up through there, and it'll go up over the bridge here. And some of them, they have it where at the back of the bridge, it snaps in like that. It really just depends on what kind of guitar. It should be easy enough to tell just by looking at your guitar. And then a classical guitar pretty much has the same parts as the acoustic guitar. The only difference is they typically have slits right here, where and the tuning pegs, rather than coming out the side, go out the back. But it's basically the same thing. Now, on a classical guitar, instead of this bridge like this, it has a bridge where you take the string through and you do a little knot. Don't worry about that. I'll do an instructional on that later on. I think that's all that is relevant. You can always learn more, but these little things here are meant to help you find what fret you're on. The double up here is the 12th fret. The single right here is the 5th. This is the 7th, and this is the 9th. And then they usually do it on the, I think, 15th and 17th, I think. 12, 13, 14, yeah, 15th and 17th. And then you can see it right here, too. 3, 5, 7, 9, 12, 15, 17, 19, 21. Typically, electric guitars will have more frets than classical or acoustic guitars. And if you have any questions, be sure and just ask them in the comments below. These right here will change the tone of the tone and the volume of the guitar. Typically, one's for volume, one's for maybe gain, maybe 2 are for a different tone, whatever. And then a whole will be somewhere around electric guitar. And there's some acoustic guitars that also are electric, and they have a pickup inside, usually somewhere around here. And you tune it, you plug it in either here at the base here, or there'll be one over here. This one's is right there, but sometimes it's right there. You'll kind of just be able to figure it out just by looking at your guitar. So that takes us to the picks themselves. Now, with the pick, really this is a great little thing here. You see how the hand is curved here, but then this last joint of the finger should be even with the thumb, like this. So here's that, and you just put it even, okay? Like that. Now, unlike in this picture, see how the fingers are hanging out real loose? You want to kind of tuck your fingers in. You don't want it not tight, but where they're not just plopping around. You want it somewhere around here. See, it's loose. I'm not real tight, but I don't have my fingers just going off doing their own thing. And the pick should be even with your thumb. Let's see if I have a pick around here. Here it is. Okay. So here you have a pick, right? So you put it in like that. And then your thumb just kind of glances over the top, just like that. See? Now I can tuck my fingers in like that, and now I'm ready to strum. Now you don't want too much of the pick sticking out, really for your own personal preference. This pick has a little slit there, right? You can kind of see it there, where your hand just naturally goes there. You want it angled slightly like that. You don't want it to angle forward like that, and you don't want it to angle back like that. Now you can pick how much of the pick you can choose how much of the pick you want showing. But typically you don't want to hold it real far out because you'll lose control of the pick and you'll drop it. You want it somewhere around there where you can still hit it, but you're still in control. Okay. So once again, if you look here, you can see, excuse me, right here, you can see how the pick needs to line up with the thumb. And if you look on this picture, let's see, right there, you can see how the hand has good control of it. Now, he's got the pick where it's pointing a little more forward than I typically like, but once again, you're going to have to really find out. There's a lot of leeway with how to hold a pick. But really, your main concern is going to be how much of the pick you want sticking out. If you have too much sticking out, it'll just get in your way. There's a lot of different kinds of picks. There are heavy, medium, light, just like strings. They're typically called thin and heavy and medium, I think. They're made out of lots of different kinds of material. Nylon, for instance, and you really just have to toy around with them and see what kind you want and what thickness. Typically, if you strum, you want something that'll move with you, especially if you strum very heavy, like a thin pick. If you pick, you typically want something a little bit thicker, because you want to have control of the string when you hit it. You don't want it to just kind of plop off and do its own thing. Also, there's going to be a little bit of sound and feedback that come with different kinds of strings, picks, different kind of picks. It'll get kind of like a popping sound, like maybe while you're playing. You really just have to mess around with it and see what you want. As far as posture, the classical guitar is really the only one that requires a whole lot of planning here. If you look here, you sit in a normal position, sitting up in your chair, and then you put your left leg where it is elevated on a footstool. You can see here on the bottom of the picture here. Okay, then you want the guitar to rest very neatly where the bass is right here on this leg, and that round part on the guitar is right there on that leg. You see how he's sitting straight? Always remember posture. Posture is very, very important, because first off, it'll change how you hit the strings with your hands, which could cause carpal tunnel. Another thing is that it'll cause you to get headaches, and you won't be able to play as clean and as long. So if you look at this one right here, she has fantastic posture. If you look, this one has a little diagram in to show just how great her posture is. If you look, just fantastic job. The shoulders are relaxed, not drooping. She's not hanging over the guitar. She's not pushed way back. It's like her and the guitar fit together very well. There's a straight line like that, and a straight line from her head down to the base of the guitar. That's exactly what you want. Her legs are supportive but relaxed. Very good posture. You see how her arm is just very casually on the guitar. You don't want it tighten too much on the guitar, and you don't want to just like drag down. You don't want your elbow to be down too far. And see how her arm here has good support of the neck, but yet she's not too far down. Very good posture. And then with a acoustic guitar, it's a little bit different. Okay, you just sit normal. You sit with the back straight. If you look at his right arm, right here, he's got it on that high part there, on the mound. Okay, but if you look, a lot of times people put their arms what's down here, and they're strumming with their arm pretty much horizontal to the strings. You don't want that. You want it nice and relaxed shoulders, very good, over here like this, and then where your arm hangs down like this. Now your left arm, don't worry too much about it. Just worry about getting it in position. Now you shouldn't have to be going like this with your shoulder. They should be relaxed. When you're playing a guitar, if you are playing while tense, it's going to come out and you're playing. Don't do that. You need to sit nice and casual, and then get the guitar. Okay, kind of just practice sitting with the instrument. Get used to it. Think of it as an extension of your heart, and so you want to make sure that you're really meshing with the instrument itself. And don't worry too much about what's going on here with his hand here and his fingers on the strings. Don't worry about that. We'll look at that probably next lesson. Okay, so that will be the end of this lesson. If you had any questions that I didn't answer, please post them below. Other than that, I will continue posting more guitar lessons. Like I said, the next one we'll look at how to read music and that kind of stuff. So I'm